Bonjour tout le monde! I'm here today to talk to you about gender. Gender, it might seem a little tricky, a little bit weird if English is your first language. It seems like some words are boys and some words are girls, and it might be confusing to figure out why an eraser is feminine and why a pencil is masculine. You might be wondering how it is that those students who are getting hundreds on their tests or hundreds on their quizzes or never get that wrong, how they do it. So I'm just going to start with the spoiler right away, that there's not really a trick to it. Now for some words, we'll get to it a little bit later, there is an obvious hint. But for a lot of them, there's not really a rule. And if you really want to know why some words are feminine and some words are masculine in French or in Spanish or in Italian or Portuguese, because it's not just French that does this, you'd probably have to get a doctorate in linguistics to really get it. So we don't have to know exactly why. We just have to know that some words are masculine, some words are feminine. So, what about the people in your class who are getting straight A's and always seem to know which words are masculine and which are feminine? They don't have a trick, they just studied, they just memorized them. I know that's kind of disappointing, and I don't really have a cheat for you to know all of them. But hopefully that simplifies things. I remember when I was in middle school taking Spanish, and everything was so difficult for me because I thought there was something I just didn't understand. Once you realize that you just have to memorize if a word is feminine or masculine, it takes the mystery out of it and hopefully makes it seem a little bit simpler. The other thing that you should know is that some words have some endings that give you a hint as to if things are masculine or feminine, and I've put them in the blog so that you can kind of practice which ones. I gave you a free activity. You can see which ones might be masculine, which ones might be feminine, but always check just in case. And you can Google all this stuff and try to find more, but it makes it a lot more complicated. Just memorize each word. That's the main thing. When you learn the word for apple, which is pomme, then don't just memorize in your head apple equals pomme, apple equals pomme. Think an apple is une pomme. So you always have the article in front of your noun, and we'll go over articles in another lesson, un, the masculine, or une, the feminine, so that you know right away if it's masculine or feminine. Because as you'll see when you start making sentences, you really need to know the gender of a word. So do yourself a favor and right away start memorizing the gender along with them. So that's it. There's no mysterious way to learn them. There is a bit of an easy way to do it once you talk about words that actually are referring to men and women, like your aunt, that's a girl, so that word's going to be feminine. Your uncle is a guy, that's going to be masculine. And those are just the ways things work. Now, I figure we'll just get into this. You might say, well, there are different cases where men identify more with a different gender, with the opposite gender, and women identify themselves with a different gender. French and other languages that do have gendered words are talking about those things. And that is something in linguistics that is being talked about when you have different gendered words. Because even in French, you might know that the word for doctor, whether or not you're talking about a guy doctor or a girl doctor, it's always masculine. So there are some people who are trying to change that. But that's kind of an aside. You don't have to know this. After all, this is the French 1 help blog, not the French 2, not the French 3 or 4 or 5 or college level blog. So you don't have to know that. just remember, when you learn a new word, learn its gender, and there's not a super complicated or super simple way to memorize it that you didn't get and you missed the boat somehow. All right, au revoir, à bientôt.